The year is 1642 of our Lord, in the middle of September, on the island of Tortuga. Here on this very island lies a rugged shack, with one room and a coarse bed lying on the ground. There are many other shacks surrounded by this one, all similar and forming a small knit community, all serving one purpose. Inside this particular shack is a man by the name of Thomas Hibbs, standing at 6'1", with light brown hair and pale skin. He sleeps away until the morning call comes to begin his job. A job he utterly despises. He appears dirty, with a few brown spots on his face from yesterday's work. Inside of his shack, next to his bedside table, is a holy rosary and a letter from his dear wife, Catherine. There is one door and two windows to the shack. It's not much of a door, but merely a door frame. Hibbs has a small mirror hanging in the corner of the room, with a few shelves lined with books. He must have traded with the local villagers or the other overseers to obtain these books. Thomas Hibbs is a bright man, that by pure chance and destiny has brought him to the New World. He is literate and very well spoken, coming from a noble family. He was one of 5 children, and he was one of the middle child. Thomas was a writer. He wrote everything from plays to critiquing the modern political system of his time, which would send him to be on the fast track out of England as the revolution kicked in. He was caught in the middle of a civil war between the royalists and the parliamentarians, but he could never pick a side. Each side would pay him handsomely to write propaganda about the other. The money was too good for Mr. Hibbs, but he ended up settling on the wrong side at the wrong time, resulting in his imprisonment in the Tower of London. He managed to escape on a ship just to go anywhere but England. Around the English Channel, a French vessel scooped up Hibbs and the crew, selling them both to the French Trading Company. Hibbs demanded his rights, but that too was folly, shipping him to Tortuga as an indentured servant. If you would have asked him if he would have ever ended up in the West Indies, he would have laughed at that remark. But God had a different plan for Thomas Hibbs. But as of today, Thomas Hibbs works tirelessly on a French tobacco plantation, always scheming and planning his hopes for freedom as he hears the birds chirping outside his window. Thomas Hibbs eagerly waits for his moment each day to wake up and be free. It's not time to wake. A few more minutes, please, said Hibbs. He may not be as eager as he was, but freedom is only a few knots away. The air is hot and humid. Crisp mornings never seem to come in the Caribbean. Thomas Hibbs has been living in these conditions for around 2 years, but he still longs for the cool weather of England. The sun begins to rise over the island. There is a loud whistle in the air. He rubs his eyes and slowly sits up in his bed. In the distance, a much heavier, bald man comes up to his doorframe. His name is Monsieur Jean, and he is one of the overseers of the plantation. "It's time to wake up, Hibbs," Jean said. "The Met wants to see you today." "If there was a pay and fine dining, maybe I would be more inclined to get up," said Hibbs. "What does Le Met want with me?" "I'm not sure, but it could be about your atrocious work ethic." "Maybe it's time he came to his senses to promote me to your position." "You're a servant, and you will stay a servant. You clean my boots and get whipped. Watch your back, Hibbs. We don't want a repeat of last week, do we now? I must be on my way." Jean turns towards the door, but before he leaves, he spits his putrid spit filled with tobacco leaves on Hibbs' floor. Hibbs is in deep contemplation about his situation. He begins to think when the opportune moment would come to execute his plan. He thought, could it even logically work? It seems no one could escape from this island. His mind drifts toward Lumet, the deputy of the plantation. He lifts up his shirt and feels the scars on his back. Each touch of the scar, his relives the whip, pain, and agony he suffered. He lets his shirt settle. He turns to his side table and picks up the letter from his wife. Hibbs hangs on every letter of the word. Love, Catherine, 1643. Out of the corner of Hibbs' eyes, a tall African man leans himself in the doorway with a big smile. His name is Shakka, a very muscular man, comes from the Ivory Coast. He wears a cut-off shirt and carries a sling with a container of water attached to it. Shakka's story begins back in West Africa, along the beautiful Ivory Coast. He was the right-hand man of Chief Ube of the Kunda tribe. Shakka was a very wealthy farmer, having numerous cattle. Shakka distinguished himself in battle as a great warrior, but even better as a peacemaker. Chief Ube grew fond of Shakka, allowing him to help conduct the business of the tribe and look after their safety. Shakka has a wonderful family, 2 sons and a daughter, and his beautiful wife, Asha. The whole tribe loved Shakka, if not for his great abilities, but also for his warming smile. The only man that seemed to despise Shakka was his brother, hiding in the shadow of him. His name was Mako. Shakka only told Hibbs the name of his brother, but nothing more. Shakka was asked to go on a diplomatic mission for Chief Ube to come to peace with their neighboring tribe, the Zaho. Shakka took Mako with him. Before the 2 tribes signed the deal, Mako betrayed Shakka to the enemy tribe. The Zaho beat him and sold him to the French trading company. Mako returned to Chief Ube with the news that Shakka died by the Zaho. Chief Ube was horribly depressed by the news. In remembrance of him, he placed Mako as his right-hand man. On the crowded and disease-ridden ship to Tortuga, Shakka vowed to return to his family and seek his revenge on Mako and the Zaho. "Let's go, Hibbs. Work now, think later," said Shakka. "You're right, Shakka, but think now. I've been in contact with the fisherman, John. His boat is ready for us, Shakka," said Hibbs. "The moon needs to be right, bright in the sea. We can leave tonight. Peter said he'll come too." "I will follow you anywhere, Hibbs, even into darkness. But be wise." "Lamette won't catch us, I promise, Shakka." "I know." "Let's get to work," said Shakka. The 2 men left Hibbs' shack and walked down the dusty road, where most of the planters live, is outside of the field, away from the big house. All of the shacks are empty. Shakka and Hibbs are the last ones as usual to the field, always driving attention from Lamette, always watching through his window at the big house or through his workers. Before stepping out into the field, they passed the big house. "He never fails to stare," said Shakka. Hibbs and Shakka stared towards the top window of the house. Gazing down at them was the feared Deputy Governor Francois Lamette. This was a tall man with a black beard. He was very stern, never joked, and rarely laughed. They say when you stare him in the eyes, a soul does not stare back, but only darkness. He was only staring, contemplating, and watching over his plantation, making sure everything is running smoothly, and nobody might get the funny idea of running away or stealing. "We're all the same, even the workers, Shakka. Horrible wages, our freedom inaccessible. The overseers are the same as us, still trying to buy their freedom from the company, with an ever so slight pay raise over us." The 2 men entered the field to begin the long day's work of planting the seeds. "We are different because they whip, we do not," said Shakka. "Tonight we fly, Shakka, God willing." "Could you tell me more about this Jesus in paradise?" said Shakka. "Yeah, he was God, waiting for us in the eternal joy." "I like that. Please, tell me more."